I was reading this book, and in the book, I read a thing where it said, after a particularly bad storm, so many corpses floated inland that the local morgue filled up before half of them had even been collected, and the morgue had to borrow space from the local fishermen and use their drying houses for extra storage. For years, corpses would keep floating up on the beach, and they would be hastily buried at the local abandoned church graveyard. These men weren't given proper funerals. They were wrapped in sailcloth and dumped in waterlogged graves. But the last person buried there had to be exhumed and transported to another town's cemetery and be given a proper burial at the request of the priest. Because apparently, the day that they buried him, he had come back that same night and he had made such a commotion that no one at the priest's farm could sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? And that seems like your average local folklore legend, right?
Yeah, like the first thing that comes to mind is Lovecraft.
Yeah.
With the whole in water, mysterious dying wave, I guess. I think that it's really interesting because I don't know if like the cause of the dying or the source of the corpses will eventually be revealed, but if it won't, then it's really Lovecraftian.
But the interesting thing about this is that this isn't from some folk story or some local legend. This is from an interview conducted in 1924 by a very famous and man of science, famous Danish explorer who traveled around Denmark, and he basically described what all of the sort of landscape were and what all of the different species of birds and all of the stuff. He's this boring man of science who just went around and completely detailed and wrote maps and stuff. And he also wrote about these thingies that just came back, and that just made me fucking obsessed.
Yeah, I can totally understand that because I was like, okay, we're ready now for something, cryptid mythological or something,
Yeah.
and you hit me with this. Yeah, this actually probably maybe kind of really happened.
Yeah.
That's really really cool. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? This is a fucking geography book, and he's talking about zombies.
Did you just stumble upon that randomly?
Yes.
Because
yeah, exactly. Yeah. No. So, I was talking to some people about. I was like, I often tell legends about the island, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I was telling some people about the legends, and they were like, you should write some of these down. And in my free time, I have been finding these local legends, and I've been translating them into English, and I've been writing them down so that I can maybe turn them into something one day. And I found this reference to a grisly murder that happened on the island, and I went into the archive, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get every book on this grisly murder. And I was reading through all of these books, searching for any clue about that grisly murder. And that's when I found this book, because when you search for these kinds of things, because it's all digital today, they can register if a particular word or a particular name comes up in this random ass book.
Mm-hmm.
So I found this book, which is 500 pages long, and I just started reading it. And I started reading about the birds that were on the island and how the landscape were. And then I finally came to what I thought was a passage about this grisly murder. And so, but the guy who's writing the book is like, oh yeah, this murder happened that was so grisly that I won't even talk about it.
Wow. that is so cheap, dude.
Yeah.
It's wow. So did you find out anything about that murder later? Just or is it pretty much dead?
Yeah, I've since found out about that murder, and it's not particularly exciting, but I was sort of fascinated by this book because he also went around the island and talked to a bunch of people, and the island used to be a very, very different thing compared to now. So it's just a bit I was generally just into the book and reading it for fun after I had concluded that it didn't have anything exciting, and then I read about the fucking zombies that just came back to life and demanded proper funerals, and I was like, okay, this is way more interesting than anything I was researching.
Oh my god, that is such a cool story. Like, what time frame are we talking about here again?
So we will get into that because
Okay.
it gets so much more fucking exciting.
Oh, holy shit, dude! I can't wait. That is so cool.
Because
That is really, really cool.
this is not the only story about these things. Like, I have found 20, 30 stories about these things. And what's really interesting about them is that they have an origin, like you would in a fucking Lovecraft thing. Like, you would have something that happened that, like, unleashed them. And then they are defeated.
Mm-hmm.
And,
That is bad.
yeah.
It's like, wow, because, going into this, I had no idea what to really expect, because you just basically told me about these,
Mm-hmm.
the Draugrs.
Yeah.
And, I don't know shit about, like, that stuff. I'm like, okay, I know Skyrim and they have Draugrs.
Yeah.
And that's about my expertise level,
Yeah.
So hearing you talk about this stuff, that's, yeah, from the place where you're from,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so cool to hear you talk about.
It's
Essentially a local. It's not even folklore.
No.
I mean, it could be kind
Yeah.
of. Who knows?
right.
But that's cool.
It's an undiscovered cryptid that, to at least like the people on this island, was completely real for 300 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's for all we know, it could be.
Yeah, right. Because like it is. That's what's so fascinating about these accounts. They don't follow the traditional way of telling folklore stories. They are described in these like very matter-of-fact ways, and they keep being repeated by other people, and there are court records of these things like being involved. So they were real to everyone. And like if you research folklore, you often like you find these storytelling patterns, right? A lot of folklore stories have like the same pattern that keeps repeating again and again and again, and these don't. So yeah, and that's what this podcast is about, which I haven't named yet.
Gotta call it the Unnamed Cryptid.
The Unnamed
Podcast.
Cryptid Podcast.
I'll just name it like, I don't know. Gonna name it later podcast. I don't know.
You're gonna name it? Yeah, my name in progress was Folklore and Things.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah,
not
it
bad.
is Folklore and Things, right? Yeah, and I am Randalf, and this is my good friend Nick, and this is our very weird and impromptu podcast about a weird cryptid I found.
Yeah, essentially, it's just gonna be like Randolph telling me these extremely interesting stories
Yes.
he found, local folklore or stories, essentially. And I'm like, I'm like a fish out of water. I have no idea. I'm just coming into this absolutely like raw dogging. I have no fucking idea what I'm in for.
Nope.
But I'm like personally, I'm big into this kind of stuff.
Mhm, I figured you would be.
So it's just really cool to just listen
Yeah.
and get to bounce questions and all these things out of you, essentially.
Yeah. So let's talk about the creature that I have dubbed the Island Draugr.
It's like a special Draugr.
Yes. So that's like really incredibly interesting, because it's not called a Draugr in Danish or in local tongue, but it actually is. It's called a Sødraugr in local tongue.
I'm not even gonna attempt to pronounce that.
No, but what that means, so in plain Danish, that translates to sea drowner. And we have this other cryptid, which is a pretty normal cryptid in sort of like a European maritime folklore, called a sea drowner or a beach washer. And when you look up the name Sødraugr, it's in like the dictionary, it will just say that it is a beach washer or a sea drowner. But it's not.
Then what is it? Like a beach washer?
Yeah.
It's like a strange name for a creature. It's like the first thing that comes to mind is like, again, talking about beaches and the sea, also very ingrained, of course, with Danish culture, obviously. It's like, some creature like that kind of like get out of the water and kind of like exist at night or something. That's what comes to my mind. Something, I don't know why I always go to Lovecraft, but it's like It's like water and creatures coming out of it and beaches. It's just ingrained in my mind, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. But yeah, a beach washer or a sea drowner, that is just a sailor that dies but isn't lying down. And when he touches the beach, he's able to haunt the local area he's in so that he can get the attention of the living, and he will literally point to where his body is. And that's what that guy is. And you see him all over European folklore, especially in England and in Denmark and Norway. But he is not a Draugr.
Okay, so this creature has like the Draugr name, but it's not.
No. Well, it is a Draugr, but like the thing is that Draugr is actually, it sounds like two normal Danish words, but it's actually slang for an ancient Nord word. It's just an accent.
Then what does it mean?
So instead of Sø, it's Sjö, which means sea, and instead of Draugr, it's Draugr, which means Draugr. So it's a sea Draugr.
Oh.
Yeah. So people don't even know that these are actually Draugr. They think that they are just regular sea drowners like they are on the mainland. But they are absolutely not.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, what makes them special then?
Well, that's the thing, because a sea drowner or a beach washer is only able to like silently communicate, and maybe he can like create some disturbances and stuff. But the Draugr is evil.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, are they dangerous to like humans?
Yes. Yeah. Because if you take a regular Draugr, or a barrow Draugr as they're also known, that's a warrior that had made his undying allegiance to his master. And that meant that when the master died, the man would be put in a position so that he didn't die while lying down, and he would be turned into a Draugr, and he would guard the burial mound of his master.
Oh my god, that makes so much sense.
With
because
the Skyrim thing, yeah?
The Skyrim thing, exactly. You have these like these half skeleton zombie creatures that are like kind of they like essentially they step out of their upright coffins. So yeah, it totally makes sense. So I suppose Skyrim wasn't too far off then.
No, Skyrim completely correctly predicts a Draugr, and also they would always watch over magical objects, because a famous Viking hero would often be like buried with some kind of like magical object that he had used in one of his like legendary tales to slay some kind of beast. So they would watch over those.
Yeah.
And it was actually like often another Viking hero's mission to go in and prove his worth, his worthiness of holding that magical artifact by slaying the Draugr in the tomb, and then communicating with the dead guy that used to have the object, and then like make him give it to him.
Yeah, so it's kind of like passing off a torch, essentially.
Yeah. And
by invading, by like grave robbery.
Yeah.
Grave robbing.
Yeah, it's grave challenging, I guess.
Well, I mean, I suppose so. If you want to call it that, if it makes you feel asleep better at night.
And the sea Draugr is, it's a little bit similar. It's also like a regular Draugr, a person that doesn't die lying down, because, you know, he's at sea, so he's weightless. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, a regular Draugr, if it doesn't have a master, can also be cruel and just like go around causing evil and actually like attacking people and slaying them. And we have like a bunch of records of fairly recently in Norway of like people being attacked by sea Draugr and then murdered.
But like, do they just? I mean, I'm trying to think. Like, my brain goes to, okay, are there like other ways a person could die not laying down? I mean, specifically, we're talking about sea Draugrs, which makes sense because like if they're underwater, obviously they're not lying down, and the like you said, the normal Draugrs essentially they're put that way. But just like my mind goes to, okay, is there any other scenario where somebody would die not laying down that would create like a special kind of Draugr?
I mean, so I think the other thing is that you also need like some kind of like unfinished business in the world, and for a sailor that would obviously like be to return home.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
But yeah, I mean, there are like so many like stories of people dying in very particular ways and then turning into like some kind of monster.
Yeah, that's true. I can't really think. I mean, uh, essentially, I mean, it's just like you could just talk about like poltergeists and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
Like ghosts and stuff. Yeah.
very old,
Yeah.
very old story essentially for cryptids and monsters. So you were talking though that there's like this island Draugr specifically
Yeah.
for your place essentially.
Yeah.
So what makes it special? Is it like just a usual sea Draugr that just kind of wanted to go home, or is there like something special to it? Is it dangerous? Is it like, does it like help old grannies cross the street, or what does it do?
Oh, he's dangerous and he's evil.
That's good.
Like the island Draugr, yeah, he's specifically evil. Like he's a curse upon the land. He is revenge for something that the islanders did.
So what did you do?
Well, that's the thing.
It's your fault.
Yeah, it actually is.
It really. I was just like joking, but because by the time that story was, you weren't born. But
No. But yeah, it is my people's fault actually. So, I was reading another passage, and it said previously many more sea Draugr ended up on shore than now, and it's because the sea is now sacred ground. It said, and therefore it does not give up its dead. Before that, there were many old people who had the gift of being able to hear the groans and moans in the air of the Draugr yelling. And when they stopped and listened to them, they could be able to see in their mind's eye the place that the sea Draugr was located, that the sea was giving up. And that got me researching. Particularly the thing about, like, because now the sea is consecrated ground.
yes. So
Because, yeah, that's when it, like, really gets out there.
yeah, because like the sea, I mean, that's a that's a big area. You know, for essentially Draugrs to be able to be created, I suppose.
But then I looked at, like, okay, when do we see the Draugr occur in the record? And I was like, it's funny, like, there are no Draugr mentioned before this age, and there are no Draugr mentioned after this age. And these 2 points in history are very special to the island.
Are they like far apart?
The first Draugr appear around 1650, and the last Draugr that we see appears in 1867.
Oh, I mean, I don't have like my history up to date, but isn't it interesting that it probably, I mean, cameras were probably invented around that time, I would imagine.
I mean, so
like,
yeah, I mean, you could feasibly have had a picture of a Draugr, yeah, but like the thing that like happened in 1650 is like really interesting because, like, you know, my old island is like famous for its salt, right?
yes, and it's also like interesting because it kind of like builds landmass.
Yeah. So
think I remember you
it's
telling
rising
me, but-
from the sea, yeah. But yeah, and actually a part of that is that the southern part of the island, it floods in the winter, and then in the summer it becomes dry land. But it leaves behind these like pools of very like salt-rich water, and the local islanders would take that water and they would boil it so that it would become like this like very fine salt. And we even like make that today.
Is it better than like?
Oh yeah, it's like the
normal
best salt in the world. Yeah. So it became like a massive industry. It was like the largest exporter of salt in all of Europe.
Damn. Well, you gotta send me some someday.
Oh yeah, for sure. But like that's actually where it becomes an issue. Because like it became this massive fucking industry. And the issue with this massive industry is that it took a lot of firewood. And at this point in history, we didn't know that when we chop down a tree, we actually have to plant new trees to make more trees. So at some point, the island didn't have any trees. But the islanders didn't actually stop there. So they would dig up like the grass and they would dry these like sheets of grass and they would use that for fuel. And that's where it becomes like a real issue. Because the island is made of sand. And once the grass was no longer there to keep down the sand would begin flying around and it would form into dunes. Some dunes became as tall as like 40 meters.
Oh damn.
Yeah, and on an island that is completely flat, that is a fucking intimidating sight. Because not only would these dunes form that would be 40 meters tall, they would move.
Damn, that is creepy.
Yes.
I mean, I've been to Denmark. I know these dunes. I haven't been to your island, but I know the dunes. But like that big, that's kind of That's kind of creepy. But I mean, like, it reminds me a little bit of what happened in on Easter Island, actually, because it's kind of the same thing, because they built these giant wooden heads, and they used all the wood to build them, and then like the sand slid down. I mean, they didn't build the heads. Essentially, on Christmas Island, it's like a whole figure, but it's like blocked by the sand because they used all the trees that held the sand in place. So it's essentially the same story, and you would think that at some point, people would know that you have to replant trees, but I suppose not at that at the time.
They had no idea, and like by the time that they realized it, it was too late, because these dunes, they would then like start like snaking their way around, basically like they were the Midgard serpent just eating the world.
That is really creepy.
Right? Yeah, so all of a sudden, there's a fucking kaiju on the island just like swallowing up civilization, right?
Yeah. I mean, like 40 meters?
Right?
That thing can like swallow fucking houses and shit.
And it did, and that's where it gets like really interesting, because it eventually made its way to the eastern side of the island. And the eastern side of the island is where the Norse god of the sea, Aegir, used to live. And that's where his house used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And we think that his house may actually have been the church that used to be there. So the church got absolutely fucking demolished, and the surrounding town got absolutely demolished by this creature that I have called the Dune Beast, because it is a Dune Beast.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially a creature at that point.
It's essentially a kaiju. It is a massive creature that destroys buildings.
I mean, at that point, it wouldn't be surprised if people would come up with like stories about cryptids and stuff like that, because it makes sense to call it a creature. I mean, obviously it's sand, but like it makes sense because even these days, if you would imagine that happening today, something like that, then I could imagine like the press and journalists giving it nicknames like that.
Yeah, exactly. But the interesting thing is that Aegir, he has a wife, and her name is Ran, and she's actually the one that ferries the lost sailors that die at sea to the afterlife.
Oh.
Yes, and it's almost like their home being buried by the sand severed her connection to the sea, almost like she couldn't start claiming the sailors anymore. And I don't know if you know where this is going, but then a certain creature starts appearing on the island.
Go on.
The Draugr starts appearing on the island after her connection is seemingly severed. Like, because she can't claim them anymore, then it comes up to the islanders to actually start claiming these souls and fighting these creatures and, giving them back to the afterlife, or like helping them into the afterlife.
Okay, so essentially, the Draugr appears because it cannot be put to rest.
Yeah,
if I understand it correctly.
Yeah, that's my theory. Yeah.
Oh, that's your theory. So there's no actual, lore explanation to this.
No, that's just something that I have come up to, because like these two separate events that happened at the same time.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe that's it. Maybe, I mean, we were talking about earlier about unfinished business and humans or people that have unfinished business dying, not laying down. So now what happens if like a human gets like swallowed up by this sand?
Oh yeah, that's a whole other thing. Yeah.
Does it count as laying down? Because I don't think it does.
No, it doesn't. No, I don't think it does. No. Like the
so
coast
that
would
like, make sense too.
No, the coast is like notoriously haunted around here.
Yeah, I have no idea why. That makes no sense, obviously. Yeah, I mean, clearly it's. I mean, you have this like giant dune just wandering the island. You're like sitting in your fucking hut, waiting to, and hoping, praying that it doesn't decide that you're its food today.
Yep. So yeah, then
it's fucking creepy in itself, to be honest.
So fucking.
It's like a Dark Souls boss.
Right. Yeah, and like we're gonna get back to the Dune Beast, but yeah, the Dune Beast is just like raging on like the entire like north shore on the island, and you can see on maps from like the 1650s that people have completely like disappeared from the areas where it is where it's like circling around, which is like super fucking interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
But that gets me thinking about like people could also die like in, you know, in snowstorms and shit, and in, like snow, and that would also not count as laying down.
No?
That is like like frozen Draugrs, which I guess Skyrim kind of hints at, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I like the idea that like the island Draugr is like some angry drunk that got swallowed up by this dune. I like that idea. But I mean, your the idea you had with the church and the severed connection, I suppose, is more spiritual, which also it's kind of nice.
Yes, so I don't think it's like because it's a Christian church. It's just that that part of the island has been like very important for like 5,000 years. Like they're old like Stone Age, Iron Age, Bronze Age settlements on that part of the island. So it's I think it's been a very sacred site for like very long. And I think the Dune Beast had basically desecrated the site, which caused like something to be unleashed, an evil to be unleashed. And I think it like gave the Draugr power to become evil, and also like enabled them to terrorize the island because Ran was no longer there to actually ferry them back to the afterlife.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that makes sense. Yeah, in the context of the myth, I suppose.
But yeah, then the Draugr, they start appearing in historical records from 1650.
So maybe it's like both, you know, because now she can't ferry them anymore, so the people that die upright in the dunes become Draugrs.
And also at sea, like there's a bunch of people that like die at sea around the island because it's a dangerous area to sail around.
Well,
so they also like washing up on the beach, and they are becoming these evil island Draugr.
So there are multiple. I thought that was like one, or is it like?
No, there's like many, like hundreds of them, and they just keep coming.
Okay.
Yeah, they it's like an invasion of the island. Like it becomes several people's job to find out where these Draugr are and bury them in whatever consecrated ground we had left on the island, so that they will stop haunting people.
Oh damn, that is. Oh, that puts things into perspective. It's like zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
That's like held at bay. So there is this you probably know SCP, you know, you've been around the block. And there is they're like different NPC SCPs, and there's like the story about like somewhat of a dead man's switch. SCP. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's like you have to do something constantly, and if you don't, the world ends. And this is like kind of reminds me of that, because if you don't, then essentially you know, you will end up with like a Draugr / zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, exactly. And that I have found some records in Norway where that actually happened, like where hundreds of these things would just invade villages and just slaughter everyone.
Wow. I mean, it's so interesting. From when are these records? Like also like the 1700s or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the majority of them are from the 1700s, mid 1700s.
Really cool.
So, and
I mean, these things are like super creepy, because I mean, they're not just zombies. They're like, because zombies for me, they're not evil. They're just kind of like, I mean, they just kind of muscle memory essentially, they're like creatures of instinct. But these creatures, like these Draugrs, they're dangerous because they're evil.
And they have skills. Like, and the interesting thing is that like when they first wash up on shore, they don't have that much power, but there's like still a life force in them. They're still like able to do things. But then as the longer they are on the island without getting buried, like the stronger they get.
Damn. So you gotta really gotta be quick, or else they might become this gigantic boss Draugr that you can't even, you know, put down again.
Yep. Yeah, because like,
has that happened? Like is there like a known like boss Draugr that's like has been roaming like Denmark for the last like 5 billion years.
Not 5 billion years, but yeah, we will get to some accounts of like some pretty dangerous Draugr.
Yeah, because like I can imagine that like having named Draugrs, that's kind of cool.
Yep. So the third thing that happens is that when they wash up, when their chest touches the beach, they then are able to shout out. And in the beginning, they will only like moan and groan. And if you answer them and ask where they are lying, they will tell you where they are. And then you have a day to get to them and get them buried. And if you don't do that, and you are living near where they are, you will the day after begin hearing footsteps around your house, and you'll hear like the slushing of like water-filled boots, and that's just like how that starts. And usually when you hear those footsteps, it means that like many Draugr are about to come.
That is really creepy. I like that. I can imagine like a video game like that too. Obviously in real life it would be creepier. Yeah, what I don't really understand is like it will say, like it will tell them where they are. So do they, in that initial stage, do they want to be buried so they don't have to like roam forever?
My personal interpretation is that they are bound by rules. Them calling out where they are like part of the rules. I think it's like some kind of like cosmic game where they basically challenge you to come get them and get them buried before they cause more trouble. But I think they want to cause evil. But I think they have to abide by these like cosmic rules.
Gotcha. I mean, maybe it's also that there's like some humanity left in them when they first touch, and they're like, "Oh shit, gotta protect the people."
Yeah, that's also possible. Yeah, because like the longer they are not buried, the more evil they become. So it makes sense that like their humanity slowly starts to fade.
Yeah, I mean that would also make sense, I suppose, for them to like tell them like, you gotta kind of bury me or else I'm gonna fucking haunt your ass.
Yeah.
It's like reminds me a little bit of zombies, like when you have to put down old fella.
Yeah, and they aren't actually zombies in the beginning. They become slowly more corporeal the longer they are alive. So there's even like a way to fight them.
Really? Like a special way? Do you need like silver swords or bullets or what have you?
So it's written down here. It says the sea Draugr at its core is evil, not only towards those that cross him, but also those that don't. If you are followed by one, you must sit down on the ground with your legs crossed and your hands folded, because then the sea Draugr can't see you, and therefore he has no hold over you. If you don't, the sea Draugr will sneak up on you in the dark and hang on to your back and plead for help. As an emergency measure, you can draw your knife and stab behind you once time, and then you are freed, and he will let you go, and he will not chase you for a whole day. You will then find your knife where you will find the sea Draugr, and you must be quick and bury him, because if you don't and he attacks you a second time, and you once again stab behind you, you will stab yourself and die.
Shit.
Yeah.
That's creepy. You have one chance.
You have one chance. Yeah, you have one extra life.
Yeah, you gotta like, okay, so you gotta like sit like cross-legged,
Yes.
And then like
With
fold
your hands folded.
like
Yeah.
Angela Merkel or something. I don't know.
And then then he can't see you. And if you fail that, then he is then able to sneak up on you from the shadows. Like he can walk in the shadows, I assume. So if you're like standing in the shadow of like a tree, he can come up behind you and hang on to your back.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's like The Darkness.
Yeah,
video
exactly.
game, or the comic.
Yeah.
And though like so you stab that thing because you fucked up, you didn't like cross your legs or whatever.
Yes.
And then it lets go of you.
Yeah.
And then it like it like goes back to where it was originally.
Well, I think it's
up,
his dislocated spirit that actually hangs on to you.
Okay, so the
Yeah.
the body remains where it is.
Yes, and that's the interesting thing about these Draugr compared to like the other Draugr you see, because like these aren't fully corporeal beings and they aren't fully spirits. They are both.
Gotcha. Okay, so you like the body itself. It doesn't like stand up, or does it essentially sometimes, or if it's strong enough?
Sometimes, yeah, it can walk around, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that's what I always had like in mind. I mean, again, it's because of Skyrim. Skyrim has tainted my brain for Draugrs forever.
Yeah, I mean, but there are those kind of Draugr. This is just a very different kind of Draugr.
It's like a special like water, beach, sea kind of Draugr. It's like when you have like you know, in I don't know, in for example, in like The Binding of Isaac, where you have like, I don't know, the you know, the red fat flies, or you know, the blue fat flies essentially.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I gotta explain it like in video game terms.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it makes sense. It's a Draugr variant. Yeah, it's like instead of a boss monster with a red shell on its back, it has a blue shell on its back.
Yeah, that's a great comparison.
And you can also bargain with the Draugr.
Really, I thought they were like evil.
Yeah, but they.
Talk to them. I thought they would just like gut you, and that's it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think they are evil, but I think they're like bound by rules, that they have to like play by certain rules to be able to like get their power or evil or whatever. I think they're just like cosmic rules that like bind them, like laws of nature, basically.
Okay, yeah, I understand that, but like, what would you bargain from them? I mean, would you like bargain your own life? It would say, okay, if you give me like one more day, I'll like give you my firstborn or whatever.
Humans in the records have just bargained for money.
They will. Okay. I suppose that's logical for humans to bargain for, yeah.
Yeah, basically the Draugr will propose you, he will give you some kind of reward if you bury him in consecrated ground. So one of the more famous stories is that this poor old guy, he once found a sea Draugr on the beach, and it had like one hand down its ship chest. Like back in the day, every sailor would sail around with, he would have like a chest on his ship with all of his belongings in. So this guy like died with one hand down the chest, and when the old guy started dragging him up the beach, the Draugr then spoke to him, and he said like, if you bury me in sacred ground, you can have everything in my chest. And the old man, he buried him at the local cemetery, and he took the contents of his chest, which was a fuck ton of money. And he became like very, very rich. And rumors started spreading about like how he had acquired all of this wealth, and his neighbors then tried to force him to share his riches with them. But he then dragged them out to the cemetery where he buried the Draugr. And the sea Draugr then spoke from the grave, "What I have given you is yours, and no one shall take it from you without getting bloody fingers." And after that, people were just like, no, we're not gonna fuck with this guy. And I think that means that like, if you break the Draugr's bargain, or anyone breaks the Draugr's bargain, he comes back and he can kill them.
Just them, or does he like come back permanently?
I think he comes back and kills them, who like, I think it becomes like that the wealth essentially became like a cursed object. So if anyone that wasn't the old man got a hold of the wealth, then the Draugr would come back and he would kill them.
Has that happened, or did they just nope out and not even try?
Oh, they noped out. Yeah, they did. I mean, why wouldn't you if you are standing across like a grave and a zombie speaks to you and like, I'm gonna fucking kill you if you steal this man's coins?
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, yes, because it makes sense, but on the other hand, people aren't that smart sometimes, and they're gonna be like, yeah, whatever, it's worth a fucking new, I don't know, leather purse or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, and the others, like, they did not care. They would actually also often try to steal from the Draugr, and the Draugr, they kind of loved that.
It's like fucking, you know, predators hunting aliens.
Yeah, I think it was like just an excuse for them to just like cause fucking shenanigans.
Yeah. Just like, just for fun. Yeah, them. I mean, what's saying is that because they're evil and they're not like, they're kind of like killing them because they can, or because it's fun.
Yeah, so it was almost like the Draugr were challenging people to rob them, because like they would often have like very fancy objects on them, and those would like be displayed very prominently when they were sort of like washing up on shore. This great story where this like girl, she's like walking down the beach, and she sees a Draugr just like lying there, and he has like this one very like shiny gold button on his collar.
Damn.
And she can't like rip it off, and she can't like get it off, so she like reaches down to bite it off, and then like right as she comes like right down to his face, he just opens his mouth and his eyes, and he just like starts laughing, and she of course like sprints back home and is like completely fucking horrified by having been laughed at by a zombie.
Well, I mean, it could have been worse, could have killed her, so
It could have killed her, yeah, but I think they are like bound by rules.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, I guess laughing at them, mocking them didn't break the rules, but still, I think that's kind of creepy. It does make for. I mean, there are like a billion movie ideas and video game ideas just talking about the
Yep.
stuff that like instantly appear in my brain that could
Oh yeah,
work with
like
this kind of stuff.
yeah. When I was reading about all of this, I was like, okay, this could be a 30-minute indie game. This could be a 30-minute indie game. This could be a 30-minute indie game.
Exactly, yeah, same. But it's not only that, like what you just described with the zombie or the Draugr laughing at the girl, it sounds like a movie scene that could totally happen.
Right? Yeah. So you are walking across this field and you're picking through the corpses of people and you like get real close to this one and then just like laughs at you.
Right. I mean, laughing
Yeah.
is just stage one. Then later in the movie, you'll have like the whole place, invaded by like a bunch of them because somebody fucked up.
Yeah. Someone got the curse upon them. Like the laughing is just like how you get signaled that you are about to get murdered by a whole horde of them, that you have attracted their attention.
Yeah, or maybe it's like the opening of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really cool. There's a bunch of shit you could do with that,
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
pretty sure it has been done. Because I mean,
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
that probably a lot of people inspired by the Draugrs. I mean, they're
Well, I mean-
fucking Skyrim, and Skyrim is like one of the biggest video games
Oh, yeah.
in the history of video games, or maybe not. I mean, yeah, the biggest, but like most well known, I suppose.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like yeah. But like the unique thing about the Island Draugr is that there are no resources in English about them.
It's like these internet stories, that are only available in like the ancient cryptic Japanese language or
Yeah.
whatever. That is really cool because it's these kinds of stories that are essentially hidden behind language barriers. Oftentimes are really really interesting, and if they are not translated, they remain fairly obscure.
Yeah, and these are fairly obscure, and it is very weird that they are as obscure as they are when we exist in this climate where folklore is like this very hype thing that everyone loves to talk about.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, maybe if people, concentrated on their own folklore more and translated it, we could have like this huge mountain of
Yeah.
folklore that's like hidden behind, weird languages that nobody speaks.
Exactly. I had the exact same thoughts because I was like, if there's one thing America does like really well, it's actually like take care and cultivate its folklore. Because like America has like so much folklore, and we also have so much folklore, but we don't talk about it, and it's like lost in the like dusty old books that we keep at random ass archives in like random ass towns.
That is so true. They're like, I mean, I'm from Germany, if you can't tell. I mean, you know that, but the audience maybe doesn't. And we have like a tons of like, old places and like castles and shit.
Yeah, like haunted mountains and shit.
Yeah, and we have like these small, not really castles. They're more like mansions essentially. They're not big enough to be a castle, and they're like a bunch of stories around. And I remember when I was a kid, there was like the story. There's this castle. Not a castle. It's like more of a small mansion thing, and there's like this the secret pathway where I think it was a princess. She would like receive her lovers secretly.
Of course,
And
yeah.
then she was killed. And now if you take like the pathway and you have like white spots on your t-shirt, they say that she touched you.
Wow.
And it's really it's like this kind of stuff. It's like small things. The Draugrs, I mean, they're essentially a cryptid that is it's big, it's well, I mean, I suppose for the Danish it's like a well-known local cryptid, but there are also a bunch of these small little stories that nobody knows. But I suppose that's also in America. You have like a billion, women in white that haunt like highways and shit.
Oh yeah, I mean we have those like literally everywhere, but yeah, like we don't cultivate it in the same way that they
Exactly.
do.
Yeah. The only way you would know about these stories is if you actually go to the place, or you read about it. And in America, I also have, maybe it's just because of movies and shows, but I also get the impression that it's more prevalent. that people know about their local folklore a lot more, and they also like to spread it, which I think is really cool because sharing's caring, as they say.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they are like the fucking champions of doing that, just that, and we just don't do it.
Yeah, which is a shame. I mean, America also has the the thing that it's huge, and they're like these land strips where there's absolutely nothing, and they're like these small towns. The same thing is, I mean, it's true for Europe as well. Recently, I was away in Hamburg, and to get there, I went by train, and you have all these small towns. You drive through, and you like imagine like what kind of stuff goes on behind these little villages and towns that nobody really knows exist. I mean, they're on the map. Everybody knows they exist essentially, but nobody really checks. There's so much creepy stuff that could go around there, and then you look up the name, and it has like, I don't know, like 2,000 people living there. It's I think there's so much cool stuff, creepy stuff that's buried underneath the local folklore that nobody knows about.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to change by doing this whole thing, was just like take this like extremely fucking cool thing and present it for the rest of the world. Like gather all of the research and then show it off. Which is what we're doing.
That is so cool. So, do you have like any personal creepy stories about Draugrs? Have you? I mean, you said earlier that they kind of stopped appearing.
Yeah.
In 1850 or something, you said?
Yeah, the late the middle of the 1800s. Yeah, they disappear, and they disappear for a very good reason.
So what is it? What's the reason? You gotta spill now, because I was about to ask you about your personal experience with the Draugrs, and I was like, oh wait, you said they stopped appearing.
Well, the thing that happens is that the Dune Beast was finally slain by the island.
How'd they do it?
So they would block its path with like a bunch of dead shrubbery, and then they would take these. They had cut out these like large strips of grassland, and they would like throw it on the back of the beast to basically like slow it down until it came to a complete stop. And then they would just like plant more and more grass on top of it. And the site where the Dune Beast now lies is actually called Højsande, which is this large dune that's now like covered in grassland. And
that is cool.
It is very cool. And like for hundreds of years they would actually like tend to its grave, because like holes would keep appearing and like sand would keep coming out, and they would like put like shrubbery into the holes of sand and like cover them up. And that was basically a yearly expedition. And one of my ancestors was actually in charge of that expedition, and I have a very cool picture of him standing on top of the Dune Beast, leading an expedition where they are plugging the holes.
That's so cool. It's like a team effort to...
It is a team effort.
To destroy that thing.
A fucking hike file. Why is
it's
it a
fine.
hike file? Can you see the hike file?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay.
Oh, that is so cool. That is really cool, yeah.
The guy with the dog, that is my ancestor Svendsen. So yeah, they are plugging the holes.
Okay. I mean, he's cool. He's got a dog. So what you gonna say? What can you say?
He's got a fucking cowboy hat and mustache as well. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's. I mean, you can't really. You can kind of tell. Yeah.
Yeah, you can kind of tell. Yeah, really like. And I think in another episode we are gonna talk about him, because he was quite the character. He used to hang out with a wizard.
Ooh. So he's also kind of like almost like a mythical, legendary person himself.
Yeah, there's actually like written a bunch of stuff about like how he was supernaturally like good at sailing. He could sail faster than anyone else on the island, and like no one knows why.
They maybe made like a deal with the Draugr or something.
Yeah, something, right? But yeah, so he was basically the chief tender of the Dune Beast to make sure that it didn't like come back, and they were doing that as late as like the mid to late 1800s. I think like that picture there is from 1878 maybe.
Do you know any, like, I guess maybe we should save that for like a separate episode, but maybe like you have like, you know, a great grandpa or something who knew him or whatever.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, I think I did actually.
maybe there's somebody alive who knew somebody at some point who knew him. I suppose that's something for a different episode, though.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I'm working on that episode. Yeah, because we're gonna. I've skipped over like so many cool like little things. Like there were dwarfs on the island. There was an evil necromancer, and there were like these elves that would just like run around. And like I took that entire thing and I was like, okay, we can save that for later because it's 7 pages so far and is only growing.
Holy shit, that is a real lot. You have like these zombie creatures that are also kind of spirits running around, and like, almost you gotta keep in a bay or they're gonna destroy the fucking island. You have this gigantic dune monster that like creeps through the island and may or may not kill you or eat your house, or your fucking church or whatever. And then you have these like this guy that's like fucking magical demon sailor and with a dog, and then you have like fairies. I mean, holy shit, dude. It's like it's like, what is this? Is this like Artemis Fall?
Yeah, exactly. It's just weird. It is crazy, right? It's so insane. Like, yeah. So they slay the Dune Beast, right? So the Dune Beast is slain, but like the Draugr, they're not completely gone yet. There's one account where the residents, one night they hear like a gate being opened to like the courtyard of the farm, and then this man who is clearly a Draugr just comes like hastily walking across the courtyard, and they hear like the wet sloshing of his boots, and they like nail across to the door of the house itself so that the Draugr can't come in, and he like starts shaking and like knocking on the windows and like shaking the door and stuff, and then like the day after they go out and they find him and they bury him, and he does not like come back. And then later we also see probably like the most evil Draugr. He is again found by an old man. It's often an old man that finds these people, but I guess like old men were just like roaming around the beaches. So he finds a Draugr, and he's like dragging him to the cemetery. But then the Draugr opens its mouth and like sprays him with this like smoke thing, and then the old man gets buried. And then like during his funeral, this cloud of smoke, it just like comes up, and like everyone there just catches the plague, and then like the plague just starts raging on the island.
Wow.
Pretty crazy. Yeah.
That is crazy. Like the whole thing is crazy. It's like you could like, I don't know, like, when you were talking about the Draugr like kind of like shaking shit, and you have the whole like the sloshing sound. For everybody who doesn't know, I'm a big sound guy. I'm not like an audiophile or whatever. I don't really care about sound quality that much, but I'm like I'm like somebody who's like deeply invested in interesting sounds and music and sound effects, and I can like imagine that being such a creepy sound. Like I'm kind of invested in trying to like recreate what it might sound like now.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah,
that
I mean, I
so
would definitely
cool.
like love that for the movie. Yeah, and it gets even creepier because like this would all happen on a farm that would be on this like complete flat piece of land out in the middle of absolutely nowhere, and you would have
So
no
damn creepy.
defenses against these Draugr other than like your own house itself, which you also like see when they like nail the cross to the door. Like they can't run away. There's no place to run because there's just nothing around. And like the thing of course we know that like, because if they run outside, the Draugr will be able to like sneak up on them because they come at night where it's dark, so it's always shadow, right?
Exactly.
So like people are completely fucked. They need to stay in the light, in that like one safety they have, and like if the Draugr comes in, then you're just done.
I mean, there's so much going on in my head though too. Like, I remember like there's I remember reading in a book. I don't even remember what it's called. And it was a story about vampires, and it's about this this person who like buried their I think their uncle or something, and then he like looks out of the window, and the uncle comes like walking back to the house that's in the middle of nowhere, and essentially the whole story is about them describing how he comes closer and closer, and you know how, and the plot twist essentially is that the uncle was buried last week, and it just reminded me of that, because you have this this creature that's like that you cannot really stop essentially, and you kind of have to watch them, break in or try to kill you, and you have like one extra life, which I mean graciously you have one extra life. Not every a monster gives you that, so I suppose it's a little bit nicer that way because the Draugr is a little bit beginner friendly in that aspect.
Yeah, and we don't even know if they are at the stage where they can come up to your house and like start shaking your doors. They might actually be corporeal enough to just attack you outright.
Yeah, well then it doesn't matter because then they don't cling to you; they just behead you or whatever.
Yeah, but yeah, so the Draugr are like at their very worst, and the Doom Beast has finally been slayed, and the sort of like north coast it comes more at peace. Like something just happens in the air, and the islanders then they finally built a church where the old church that was destroyed was, and then something just happens. It's almost like the age of magic on the island was over, because the Draugr then stop being evil and they become these normal bargaining spirits that just like wanted to be put to rest. And we stop seeing the elves around the island, and dwarves, they kind of like just disappear.
Yeah.
There's also this character called Stick Nils, who was an undead sorcerer.
Wait, what? What's his name?
Stick Nils.
Like as like stick as in.
Yes, and then Nils, like in the name Nils.
Okay, and I know Nils. That's like a German name too, but like.
Yeah. So he was a blue flaming wheel that would just roll around on the island.
Like biblically accurate stick or whatever.
Yeah, he would stop appearing because he was an evil sorcerer that got hanged in like the 1600s, and then he would just haunt on the island. He would just be this big blue flaming wheel that would just like
stick. Yeah, okay,
yeah,
now I get it.
So he also just becomes an increasingly like rarer side, and we haven't actually seen him since that church was built. So it was like whatever was broken when the church it was destroyed, it was like it was sealed again. And we also have like the sorcerers in general on the island just become a lot less powerful. Like they can't kill people anymore. They can just like make themselves invisible.
That's lame. I mean, it's not. I mean, invisibility is still cool, but it's not as cool. But like, so essentially, the Dune Beast and the church thing, they kind of work together, or, I mean, because the Dune Beast slain was like step one, and then the Draugr kind of disappeared, and then the church was built, and then the magical creatures got weaker. Yeah. So maybe it's both. Some way.
It's definitely like the church was. It was almost like the church was like guarding something. Like it was guarding a hole to someplace else where some kind of power came from. And when that church got built again, it was like it became sealed and became blocked. The first account I read where it says that like now that the sea is consecrated ground, that account is after the church is rebuilt.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
you can just like toss the bodies into the water now and you're good.
Yeah. Like they are. That's a fine place for a grave. And I also found this like other really interesting account where some islanders are interviewed about going to church. And they say that only heathens go to church. They pray at the real altar, which is going out on Sundays and fishing. So it's also like the islanders had a very different relationship to Christianity, which I don't think was Christianity. I think they had like their own pagan version of Christianity, where you sort of like, you didn't go to church to be a good Christian. You did good work and you lived like a good life. So I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean it is, because I mean it makes sense living on the coast or on an island to have like a special relationship with water too.
Yeah, that is your church, the water. It is the thing that sustains you and gives you life.
Yeah, I mean for sure, it's like, biggest natural resource, obviously. So I mean, even we're talking about earlier about the gigantic salt export, and even that is it's from the water.
Yeah.
It's like everything comes from the water, aside from the trees that you all forgot to replant.
And so also the psychic people that could sense when the Draugr were coming, they also just stopped being born, after the church is rebuilt.
So yeah, that's weird though. We would imagine like now that the church is built, there would be more of these people.
Right? But then again, it's like there's no magic anymore, so they don't have that. They can't be born with that ability.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. But like, maybe somebody should like destroy the church. Oh, blasphemy! I know, but I want more of those stories.
Well, that's where it gets interesting, because holes are starting to form in the dune again, and the church is actually rumored to be shut down very soon.
Oh damn, we may be maybe on the brink of a new era of Draugrs.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine like Draugrs these days? They would like have these like would have like fucking I don't know iPhones on them with like creepy videos, or maybe they like upload shit to like to YouTube, or you have like OnlyFans Draugr or something.
Instead of calling you and saying 7 days, they're like, "Oh, I'm out on the beach."
Yeah,
Or they will FaceTime you.
it's like yeah, I mean you wouldn't have to. They wouldn't have to like groan and shit anymore. They could just like like create a I don't know whatever X account or Blue Sky or whatever. Be like, yo guys, I'm like hanging out here. Can you please pick me up?
Skull emoji.
Yeah.
Just fucking tweeting out, "I'm dying over here," skull emoji. and then they would like tag the location.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Or make these creepy ass 4chan posts on X. Oh no, wait, I don't think 4chan is a thing anymore, but you know.
Yeah, be me, be lying on the beach, be dead.
Please help.
Please help.
Yeah.
But yeah, we see these like completely different Draugr after the church is rebuilt. Yeah, we hear this like one account where this guy's just sitting outside his farm, and he hear like the groans and moans of a Draugr, and he just responds back, "I'll come and get you tomorrow," and then he comes and gets him tomorrow. And that just keeps happening again and again and again. Like, we hear some kids that are playing outside, and they again hear the voice of the Draugr being like, "Oh, no, no, help me, help me, help me." And then they come out and help them, and that's fine. And generally it's like, it was time for the island to change and join the rest of the world. It was time for like the men to come home from the sea and like become part of the life on the island again. And when the guy that wrote the travel journal that got me started on this entire thing, when he visited the island, he could sense that there was something in the air, that the age of the island was over. The island just hadn't really caught on to it yet. And then, by the 1960s, it was a place like any other, which is not a bad thing. It's just like interesting that it used to be this place that was terrorized by Viking zombie.
Yeah, I mean, that is an interesting story for sure. Earlier you were talking about something that that we haven't really touched yet. I'm not sure if you want to save that for another episode, but you were talking about like these specifically, I'm gonna call them legendary Draugrs that got really strong. Do they have like names like, I don't know, Sven the Great? I don't know.
No, unfortunately they are that cool. Like, yeah, I touched upon one of them like briefly, like the Plague Draugr. That's the only one that like keeps getting mentioned and has like mentions, but he doesn't have a name. He's just a random Draugr that brought the plague. Yeah, then we have like a very persistent one. He had his boots stolen, and he would just like, become like this legendary creature who would like haunt this farm for like years and years and years. And I don't think he ever murdered anyone, but basically the people that lived on the farm, they had to flee. And yeah, he would just continuously haunt the place.
I mean, that sounds just like mischief. Like, he's not hurting anybody. He's just like playing pranks.
Yeah, but he was very angry. Yeah, that's...
Very angry prankster.
Yeah, the only one that I can really think about is... He's known as the Dragoon. And he's also not completely evil. He just wanted to be buried at home, which was here on the island. But he had a very long journey to go because he died in a war in Germany. So he traveled... yeah. So he traveled all of the way, presumably along the Danish coast, right? And then all the way home, and... Yeah, he had his fiancée bury him.
Well, that sucks. Even now, it's kind of hard to get there.
Yeah.
Like if you don't, I mean, even if you go by car, you have to like, go on a ferry and shit.
Oh yeah, but it's only like 8-9 hours to Berlin, I think.
I mean, by car. Have you tried going by public transport?
Oh yeah, I would not go by public transport.
Yeah, it's like half a day. It's like at that point, I might as well fly to Japan.
Yep, basically.
Yeah, that's really cool. But something like I gotta ask, because like we were talking about the Dune Beast, and then in the mid 1800s, it was put to rest or killed, however you want to put it. Can
Yeah,
we?
I mean, he's not dead yet, right? Because he's just resting. He's just trapped.
Dude,
He's
that's so
in
creepy.
prison.
It's like fucking Cthulhu again, a Lovecraft. But
Right?
yeah, it's like eternal sleep. But dude, if you don't like,
Yeah.
if that church gets like shut down, and they trash it, then and wreck it, then dude, fucking Cthulhu Dune Beast might wake up again. Gotta be careful.
Yep.
But can we go visit it?
We can both visit the location of the old church. We could also visit the current church. Yeah.
No, I mean that is awesome. We should do that. But like, can we also go visit the Dune Beast where it's laid to rest? Holy shit! Can we do that in this video?
Yeah. Remember where I surfed on snow?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's on the Dune Beast.
Holy shit, that is so cool. Dude, we gotta go visit it in this video, because like you can't just drop like there's this 40-meter huge fucking Dune creature that's like fucking creeping over the island, eating people and houses and shit, and it's like the source of these zombie monsters that kill and like taunt everyone, and then it was laid to rest, and we can't just not go see it now.
No, it definitely has to be seen. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll go get some footage of that for sure.
Fuck yeah, take me with you.
Yeah. I'm gonna get footage of like all of the locations that all of these stories take place in, because like the interesting thing is that they are all named the locations, so you can go like visit them, and a lot of the farms are still around, even though some of them are from the 1600s.
Oh, that is amazing, because it's also there's one thing, hearing about these stories, and then there's another thing to watch the places. Having them literally exist, it makes it more
It makes them real.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. That's so cool. I can't wait to see those places.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. Yeah, and I definitely like doing a part 2 of this. Like, I don't think it's gonna be the next one, but yeah, definitely doing a part 2 with like some of the other weird stuff. I have right now in my kitchen there are about like 30 books about the island that I'm reading through to see if like there are any kinds of like interesting things in them.
I mean, there must be. Specifically, I'm like, okay, so you got these books, and they're like probably they're like local books, right? That you don't even buy that easily anywhere. They're like you probably picked them up like from like some old ass archive, right?
Yes, I actually went into the back room at our local library, and I was allowed to borrow some of the books that they're not allowed to like lend out, because there's only one copy in the entire fucking world left.
Holy damn, that is so cool.
Yeah, I even have like the old court records from the 1600s that I'm reading through to find some references to some of the court cases about these Draugr.
Have you found anything?
So there is one court case that I found, but he's not a Draugr, he's just a revenant.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that like an evil spirit? I mean,
yeah, it's just a guy that was wronged in life, and then he comes back until his tormentors are put to to justice, and that's what he does. Like, he was just a guy that was tortured by his son and his daughter-in-law, and then he made a vow that as long as his nose was pointing towards the sky, he would come back and haunt them. And then the very night that he died, he came back and he haunted them, and he haunted them for like a very long time. And then they snuck out to his grave, and they desecrated his grave and turned him like nose down, and then he apparently just stopped haunting them. But they got tried and convicted of grave desecration.
Poor guy. He kind of has a point being a revenant at that point.
Yeah, like revenants and like the whole like nose pointing up, that's actually like a common motif that happens in these stories. Even back to the Viking sagas, where there's a guy that actually in the sagas is from the island, and he also comes back as a revenant just to like say goodbye to his wife.
I mean, it's hard not to become like some mythical monster at that point. If you don't lay down, you become a Draugr, If your nose points up, you become a revenant. Is there a way to not become anything?
I don't know, I guess you gotta like die on your side.
Yeah, or maybe like, I don't know, nose down or whatever. Or just,
Yeah, if you die nose down, then you don't come back.
I mean, it's a good point though, right? Because coming back to the whole vampire thing too, people used to like destroy the corpses to kind of prevent that from happening. So it makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I think the whole revenant thing, like specifically the Danish thing about turning the nose down, I think that's related to vampire myths somehow.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about vampires in a specific, because like vampires, they could be like,
Oh yeah, for sure.
that is such a huge topic.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna Shanghai our good Romanian friend at some point, and I'm gonna make him go to Romania with me, and we're gonna go find some vampires.
Hell yeah. Can't wait for that. Can we like see Transylvania too? I mean,
Yes,
that's
that's where we're
basic
going.
though, right? Transylvania's so big. I mean, yeah, it's creepy and so, but it's so like go to, I don't know, but it's cool
But
regardless.
I think if you actually go to the location itself and you actually talk to the locals yourself, you'll find some way cooler versions and also some extra stories that you didn't know about.
Dude, you're totally right. That's the point we were talking about earlier about like local legends that nobody really knows about. You're completely right. That is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you look up famous Danish spooky ghost stories, it is the white lady, the grey lady, and it's the black lady. And nothing about any of the like actual cool ghost stories that are around. And I was just in Wales, as you might know.
Yeah.
And I went to the local archive in Conwy, and I found about 150 folklore stories that are relatively unknown and didn't really have any search results on YouTube.
Then you have like a ton of material, I suppose.
I have so much material, and I gotta get so much more.
I mean, I'm always open for this because this is really cool.
Yeah, right. And I think like we're not just gonna talk about folklore. Next time I'm gonna talk about a weird fucking book I read.
A weird book. Well, that sounds
A
interesting.
weird book. Yeah, it's gonna be. You're gonna love that book. Well, you're gonna hate the book itself because the book is terrible. But everything surrounding the book is very, very interesting. So that's the next episode for sure.
Yeah, okay, that's for the next episode. Also, take a drink, everybody. Every time I said "cool" in this episode, because I think I said it like a thousand times.
So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this little insight into folklore on my island. Not just you, but like everyone.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I really want to know more now. I mean, you talked about like demon sailors and dwarves and fairies and shit. I mean, there's like this. You said like in the mid 1800s it kind of stopped, but I mean that means there's like this huge 200-year window. So there must be more.
Yeah. There's so much more, and yeah, I got material for at least like one more session of this.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna get to like we're gonna talk about like dwarves that kill people and. Yeah.
I like imagining these. I'm not sure you probably have played Postal 2, who hasn't, and there's this I think they're like these holiday special events.
Oh yeah, I love them, yeah.
And there's this I think it's St. Patrick's Day or something with like
Oh right, yeah,
yes.
yeah.
That came to mind. That came to mind, yeah.
Oh, these are very different dwarves because they're so because the island is like so detached from everywhere else. It has like developed its own folklore, and it's very out there, and it's not like colored by anything else. So these aren't physical dwarves; these are weird dwarves.
Yeah, that is cool. We gotta talk about that sometime. But I mean, island stories are just cool in general. I mean, it's like fucking. Can you imagine the stories like the North Sentinels, for example, could tell the ghost stories?
Yes.
Nobody will ever know them, but just imagine.
But they exist.
Yeah, they must. It's like your island's like North Sentinel Island of Denmark now.
It was for a while, yeah. It absolutely was.
You just kill everybody who enters.
Yep. They certainly did.
That's cool.
So yeah.
Again.
That has been it for us. I mean, we could talk for hours, but we should let everyone else go now.
For sure. Yeah, yes, thanks so much for having me. This was a blast, and I hope we'll record more of this stuff because I'm totally down.
Definitely.
Well then.
So yeah. Yeah, goodbye everyone.
Yeah. yeah, thank you for listening to our ramblings, or
Yeah.
his ramblings, and me randomly reacting and saying cool a bunch of times.
Yeah, bye bye.
Bye bye.